Yo, literally days after JP Morgan was publicly attacking strategy, they came out today and recycled their old 170K Bitcoin. What do we call this? Expectation. But they're not the only huge bank making big moves into Bitcoin this week, making everybody wonder, are the institutions trying to capture Bitcoin? Or did they just finish getting their positions and now they're ready to let the rocket ship do what the rocket ship does, which is number go up, baby? I find it quite interesting because, again, it's Wall Street playing their old games of using media to shake out retail to get themselves positions, which, again, this is a game as old as Wall Street. I think it's just hit Bitcoiners differently because Bitcoiners have not been used to dealing with TradFi. I think this year, if you were to define this year was the year of TradFi. Opti was showing me a chart the other day of all of Bitcoin's history. And every single year in Bitcoin's history, you see the candle. If you go by yearly candles, you either see Bitcoin go up a lot or you see it go down a lot. We've had two giant wicks this candle, but where the price is exactly the same to where the price started in the beginning of the year. So again, it begs the question. You have Caitlin Long replying in all caps, screaming manipulation, right? You have some of the most powerful people involved in the Bitcoin industry owning some of the largest Bitcoin treasury companies. You have BlackRock. You have Larry Fink going on TV and preaching Satoshi's gospel. You have the Bitcoin ETF, the Bitcoin BlackRock ETF, the most profitable ETF that BlackRock has. So is it too far of a stretch to say that, hey, listen, they want to get their bags loaded before number go up, and they're willing to play all the Wall Street games possible in order to keep the price where it's at, to shake out the weak hands, to scare you out of your bags so that they can accumulate cheaper sats? Because you guys have to remember the history. If you guys have been tuning into Simply Bitcoin every day, you guys know the deal. But if you guys haven't been, a week or two ago, me and Opti were in war mode. We're like, oh my God, Jamie Dimon is attacking Bitcoin. We know how he talks about Bitcoin. He takes every advantage to say, listen, Bitcoin is an index of money laundering, left and right. And shorts MicroStrategy, the price drops for I don't know how much. And then all of a sudden, the next day, they say stuff like this. They're calling $170,000 Bitcoin while simultaneously announcing that they're launching a JP Morgan product, right? So again, they're playing both sides of the same coin. They're fundamentally capitalists. I don't think they ideologically care about Bitcoin. I don't think they care about the whole sovereignty aspect of it. I don't think they care about the self-custody aspect of it. But I think Jamie Dimon is a capitalist, and I think he's trying to figure out how his bank can not only survive what's happening with Bitcoin, but also prosper as it relates to Bitcoin. And I think they're seeing what Strategy did and how well that stock performed. I mean, Michael Saylor pulled off a miracle. Strategy was basically going sideways for 20 years until he announced the Bitcoin strategy, and then the stock like 30x'd in a span of a year and a half. It was absolutely incredible. And then that created this cascading domino effect of all these other companies that started launching their own Bitcoin treasury companies and Bitcoin treasury strategies, right? But anyways, here's JP Morgan after shorting strategy, after FUDing Bitcoin, basically going on the record. This article was published yesterday. This is Business Insider. This is the headline for the audio listeners. Why JP Morgan says Bitcoin could skyrocket to $170,000 in the coming months. That's not a Simply Bitcoin title. That's not coming from us. That is literally coming from the biggest bank in the United States. They're at the point that they're even making expectation calls, to put it nicely, right? Anyways, let's get into the juice of the article, the source of the article. Bitcoin may be in a bear market, but there's a case for the token to rocket to $170,000 sometime in the next 12 months. This is wild, and this is wilding out, bro. It's almost as if they're watching Rustin, dude. This is crazy. This is Jamie's watching Rustin. Breaking news. JP Morgan said it saw the crypto potentially climbing 84% over the next 6 to 12 months, citing a projection from its model that assumes Bitcoin will trade similarly to the price of gold. Quote, our volatility adjusted Bitcoin comparison to gold metric continues to imply a theoretical price of close to 170K, suggesting significant upside for Bitcoin over the next 6 to 12 months. Such a rally would come on the back of a difficult few months for Bitcoin, which has tumbled into a bear market amid a general risk-off shift, worries about the path of interest rates in 2026, and concerns about Strategy, the Bitcoin treasury firm founded by Michael Saylor. Oh, how convenient. Business Insider is mentioning Strategy in the same, in the same article that they're mentioning JP Morgan, and how convenient that JP Morgan is launching a product that's actually going to compete with Strategy. How convenient is all of this, right? It all must be one big coincidence. Bitcoin traded around $92,000 on Wednesday, down approximately 26% from its all-time high of over $126,000 earlier this year. The crypto is now down for the year. JP Morgan, though, has floated the possibility that Bitcoin could be trading more similarly to gold for years. This was most prominently exhibited in April, when concerns about tariffs drove a historic sell-off in U.S. stocks and led to inflows into Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Strategists have also said they were eyeing two factors to potentially influence the price of Bitcoin over the near term. Strategy holding onto its Bitcoin. Fears have risen recently that Bitcoin holding company Strategy could start dumping some of its tokens as the price crash, and its premium stock price relative to Bitcoin comes down. Strategy holding onto its Bitcoins would be a positive for the crypto, JP Morgan said. How convenient is that? The firm is the second largest corporate holder of Bitcoin, though rumors that it could sell some of its tokens began to pick up steam last month. Arkham Intel, a crypto analyst firm, estimated that Strategy had around 437,000 Bitcoin in its coffers in November, down from its peak of around 484,000 Bitcoin early in the month. Previously, the firm said it believed it had identified around 97% of Strategy's token of total Bitcoin holding. See, here's the thing. This entire paragraph that I'm reading right here, like, guys, that is utter BS. We know how much Bitcoin Strategy holds. Like, they're public about this. So, again, an article from Business Insider predicting that Bitcoin's going to go up to 170K while simultaneously FUDing MicroStrategy. And they're saying that JP Morgan is saying this while simultaneously JP Morgan is launching a product that is going to allow people to benefit or get exposure to Bitcoin. And it's a competitor to Strategy. Again, like, it's a very fitting name for the outlet, Business Insider. Yeah, this is some insider type of stuff, shenanigans, in my opinion. Strategy's CEO recently suggested that the firm could eventually sell its Bitcoin if its MNAV were to dip below a threshold of 1. That metric, which measures Strategy's market value relative to the value of its Bitcoin holdings, is hovering around 1.1, according to the latest data on the company's website. JP Morgan strategists noted that the firm recently announced it had raised $1.4 billion in cash reserves. That fund could cover costs like dividend and interest payments for about 2 years without the company having to sell Bitcoin. Strategists estimate, adding that they saw forced sellings as, quote, even less likely with the reserves on hand. Quote, if this ratio stays above 1 and MicroStrategy can eventually avoid selling Bitcoin, markets will likely be reassured and the worst for Bitcoin prices will likely be behind us. So the article continues, but I want you guys to pay attention to the media and the politics and how the price predictions are being weaponized in order to convince you of certain narratives, which, again, is fascinating to me. This puts to shame the ICO booms and busts and all the shenanigans that were happening in 2017 and 2018. This puts it to shame. This is what Simon Dixon calls the financial industrial complex, right? And this is their media arm acting in lockstep. This is what is happening right now, ladies and gentlemen. MicroStrategy and JP Morgan are both trying to compete for your business. Ultimately, I think I'm a bigger fan of strategy than I am of Jamie Dimon. I think Saylor, again, he is from Wall Street. Strategy, again, is not a replacement for spot Bitcoin, but I can tell you for certain that I know Saylor fundamentally understands what Bitcoin is. I know that for a fact. You can listen to him talk about this enough. I've had the pleasure of meeting Saylor and having been able to talk to him a couple times. I know he knows what Bitcoin is, right? But he's also a capitalist, and he also wants the price of his stock to go up, right? JP Morgan, on the other hand, we know how Jamie Dimon feels about Bitcoin, but Jamie Dimon doesn't want to get left behind. So isn't it convenient that the same week they FUD, because that's what it is, they FUD Bitcoin, they FUD strategy, they announced that they were shorting strategy, I believe, Opti, right? Isn't it convenient that they launch a Bitcoin-related product and then they get Business Insider? Maybe they didn't get Business Insider, but again, I'm what do I know? It's not like I work in media or anything. Business Insider drops an article saying JP Morgan thinks that Bitcoin could skyrocket to 170K. But be careful. Watch out with strategy because, anyhow, moving on to this next article, which I think is incredibly bullish. Charles Schwab. Charles Schwab is interesting. Charles Schwab is one of the brokerage platforms that, older people like to use, wealthier people like to use that are in the TradFi system. I always hear it's like, I have to check my Schwab account. Like you hear that. It's like a meme at this point. Schwab just announced that they are going to allow their customers $12 trillion worth of assets. They're going to allow their customers to buy Bitcoin. Let's get into some of the details. Charles Schwab plans to launch spot crypto trading in 2026 and is shaking up as one of the most consequential moves from a major U.S. brokerage. The firm, which oversees more than $12 trillion in client assets, intends to offer Bitcoin and Ethereum trading across its platforms after internal testing and a limited pilot phase. Charles Schwab will bring mainstream investors to crypto. Schwab's entry makes a shift in how traditional brokers approach digital assets. The company already offers indirect exposure through crypto thematic ETFs, but spot trading brings cryptocurrencies into the same environment as stocks, bonds, and retirement accounts. This could change how mainstream investors access crypto. The announcement also highlights a strategic push to consolidate investor activity. Millions of Schwab customers currently hold traditional assets and use external exchanges for crypto. Bringing those functions under one account reduces friction and strengthens Schwab's footprint across asset classes. Meanwhile, another U.S. financial giant, Vanguard, also announced its expansion into crypto last week. So again, this is absolutely massive. This is huge, right? You have Bank of America, you have Vanguard, you have Charles Schwab, all announcing that they're launching Bitcoin-related products, exposure to Bitcoin. You know what would even have me even more hyped at this point? As if Schwab was like, oh, by the way, we're also offering the ability for you guys to withdraw. That's what I'm looking at. I think the market eventually is going to force Schwab to do that. But again, I don't think Schwab would do that on their own, right? That's what I want. I want the ability for these brokerages, for these banks, not only to offer their clients to buy spot Bitcoin, but to be able to withdraw that spot Bitcoin. Because to be honest with you, if Schwab launches this and JP Morgan launches this product, it doesn't really help the Bitcoin revolution. And the Bitcoin revolution is individuals reclaiming back their financial sovereignty through taking self-custody of their keys. That's what it comes down to. It's as simple as that. It's really not that complicated. It's not rocket science. But overall, incredibly bullish news. This Wall Street warfare that's going on. Again, it's fascinating to see. And again, the largest trading platforms on planet Earth are going out there and they're announcing, hey, we're going to allow spot Bitcoin trading. Bank of America, hey, we're getting in the game too. Vanguard, the ex-CEO, pie on his face, a little bit embarrassed. Hey, we're going to be offering Bitcoin as well. So overall, I mean, this is incredible, guys. I don't know how else to tell it to you guys. I mean, this is what winning looks like, bro. Like the only thing that needs to catch up, the only thing that I'm waiting on, the only thing that I'm a little bit disappointed on is like, when is the price going to catch up to all this winning?
I was in my head thinking, here we go.
When is the price going to catch up to all this winning, bro? Because it seems like, all this women, all this.
Yo, it's Friday. It's Friday, and he didn't have any drinks.
No, you know what it is? It's I log on to. It's always Rumble. I log on to Rumble. And someone's like, Nico took sassy pills today. I'm expecting him to steal Sophie Mean Girls references soon. So I was reading that comment while I was saying what I just said. But I even lost my train of thought. What the hell was I saying?
I have no idea. You said, this is what winning feels like.
Yeah. Okay. Like, fine. We're winning, but the price isn't reflecting that we're winning. I'm just waiting for it to catch up, bro.
All this what?
What did I say?
You said all this women instead of all this winning.
I didn't say that again.
I know the chat's just trolling.
The chat's going crazy. Anyways, Opti, what are your professional macro opinions?
My very unprofessional
you're
opinions
a professional, bro.
We need bad news to get the price to go up, like for real, like for real, dude. All right, well, obviously, probably the most interesting take on this is when you think of the timeline. Remember the timeline that we saw. We saw JP Morgan, for years basically be anti-Bitcoin. Famously, Jamie Dimon, I believe it was like 2023, said, I'm never going to talk about Bitcoin again. This was at Davos conference. I believe it was 2023. I could be mistaken. It might have been 2024, but I'm pretty sure it was 2023. And then he kind of went silent for a while. And right around that same time, of course, Larry Fink launches the BlackRock IBIT ETF. A very kind of, spark note, little footnote that went unnoticed for most people is that JP Morgan was the authorized participant of the IBIT ETF. And so, they've been in the Bitcoin space as long as BlackRock has been in the Bitcoin space. Obviously, were the largest bank and the largest asset manager in the U.S. are in cahoots here in Bitcoin, which I think obviously when it came out, it made us all feel a little weird. And then the more recent saga that has brought JP Morgan and specifically Jamie Dimon back into the news cycle was what happened around Strategy. Of course, they came out, pulled up an old report about 40 days old saying that Strategy might get kicked out of the MSCI index. Strategy stock's been getting kind of pummeled right now. On that exact day, Strategy goes down, Bitcoin goes down, and then lo and behold, we see that JP Morgan the very next day announces that they are launching a structured Bitcoin note, essentially copying what Michael Saylor has been doing. Now, what is interesting is this week, we see that they are doubling down on their 170K prediction for 2026, essentially saying the 4-year cycle is over. The institutions are in command here. Really makes you wonder what is going on. But I think what was interesting, and it was at the very end of that article, is that not only are they using the gold to Bitcoin ratio as kind of their watermark of what they think Bitcoin is. That's how they got that 170K Bitcoin prediction. But they are using Strategy as like the linchpin for this happening. They're like, look, if Strategy doesn't sell some Bitcoin, then we're probably going to 170K. Oh, also, if Strategy doesn't get kicked out of the MSCI index, then we'll probably see 170, which is like what Nico's saying. It's, what is the reason for this article? Because that's really what you got to think about here. And I was trying to kind of game theory this morning, and I came of two minds. One, I think the more cynical view is obviously like JP Morgan is finally putting out some quote unquote signal there so that they can get some exit liquidity. If we do get a rally, they obviously want to sell into that rally so that the plebs get absolutely wrecked. They're like, hey, it's going to 170. Get them locked into their products, kind of dump their bags as they go play at games in the rest of the market. The other part of me really does kind of believe that with all of the news, you can't just combine the JP Morgan news, but with all of the recent news of essentially all of Wall Street getting into Bitcoin, it really does make me start to believe that they have packed their bags. They have unleashed the products at essentially the bottom of this kind of like, local top 126K down to like 80K. It is dumping right now. I did see it got under 90K earlier today, but it really makes me think that like their bags are packed. Finally, they finally got the products, the Wall Street Bitcoin products that they want in place. And now they're like, okay, we can make it run, because obviously I think they have their own personal bags and they do want to actually, profit off of Bitcoin as much as anyone else. Whether they are essentially on the one hand, like doing a Jim Cramer here, where like, hey, now, hey, all you Main Street retail people, like you can finally now get into Bitcoin. Now's a good time to get the Bitcoin, and then they, basically get an anvil dropped on their head, or metaphorically, yeah. I'm thinking like the coyote and the wood. What's it? Roadrunner and the Roadrunner. Or is this them essentially kind of through all of the noise telegraphing what they think is going to happen? And it really makes you think, like we posed at the very beginning of the show, is Bitcoin captured by Wall Street? I don't think so. But I think it's becoming very clear right now that they are kind of in control of the price currently. And until it finally gets away from them, that I think they're the ones that are really directing where this is going. So part of me is like, okay, it's exit liquidity 170. They're kind of trying to drum up the FOMO. The other part of me is like, are they literally telling us that we are going to whip this into 2026 while everyone thinks we're going to be in a bear market? I really don't know which one it is, but it does make me think kind of like they have to tell you what they're going to do before they do it. And I'm wondering if this is the signal of them saying that, or is this more noise where they're just kind of trying to distract everyone? So that is kind of what my thinking is around Jamie Dimon and JP Morgan right now. I just find it super interesting that like their main kind of linchpin, their main 2 points for it going to 170 is revolving around strategy and what they do. Whereas I mean, I don't think strategy necessarily has that big of an impact. But as Nico pointed out, they were mentioning 400 something thousand coins. I'm pretty sure Saylor is at like 650,000 coins now. So even their data doesn't seem to be that good on Business Insider. But yeah, it is super interesting. And then Charles Schwab, I mean, I've told this story forever on the show. My initial Bitcoin journey started at Charles Schwab, and they laughed me. Wait, what? They laughed me out of the building because I didn't have enough money to invest in Charles Schwab.
They have a building?
Well, yeah, not like the official freaking Charles Schwab headquarters, but yeah, they have Charles Schwab like storefronts. and I walked into one. And I had 250 bucks. I wanted to open an account because, you know, rich people trade stocks. Like, that's how you get rich, right? I walked into one and they laughed me out of the building. This was like 2016. They're like, yeah, dude, you need $2,500 to start an account. And I'm like, shit. All right, cool. Well, I guess I'm too much of a brokey to even open an account at Charles Schwab. So this was before Robinhood. You know, this is before like the retail trading stuff happened. But yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, full circle. They're finally into Bitcoin. I guess I got there a little earlier than them, but hey, you know, all's well that ends well.
Dude, that's like the ultimate revenge story, bro, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
like,
I'm cool with it.
That's the ultimate revenge story. It's like, all right, you denied me. I got into Bitcoin first, you know?
Yeah, no, I honestly, that was...
Bro, I've never heard that story before.
I've said this story so many times.
I'm glad you've told this story.
Yeah, I've said it so many times.
Anyways, guys, it's going to be a fantastic show. We have so much lined up for you guys. We have the Vice President of the United States, and it seems like the 2028 presidential frontrunner, JD Vance, admitting that he owns a lot of Bitcoin. So we'll have two pro-Bitcoin presidents back to back. JD is a lot younger than Trump. As much as I like Trump, he's an older man, so I don't know how much he conceptually understands Bitcoin. He's obviously a very smart person, you know. But again, like this is technology at the end of the day. He even admits that Barron, his son, has helped him through a lot of this stuff. So, and I know his sons are heavily involved. His older sons are heavily involved in the industry. But I wonder what the difference would be between having a younger president who owns Bitcoin, you know, versus someone, because at the end of the day, bro, like Trump doesn't need extra money, man. He's a multi-billionaire. He has his own plane, like it's a 737.
Well, he like 2/3 his net worth in Bitcoin, but you know, let's not talk about that.
I mean, but everyone has to pay the price of tuition, right? Anyways, guys, it's gonna be a fantastic show. We have tons to cover today, but before we jump into it, I do want to give a very special shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor, bitcoinwell.com. The reason we recommend bitcoinwell.com here at Simply Bitcoin is that it's an automatic self-custody Bitcoin on-ramp. Buy real Bitcoin using Bitcoin Well. It's an automatic self-custody on-ramp, which means when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. They don't even keep your Bitcoin. If you're a higher net worth individual looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, you're an office, you're a trust, you're an organization, you can set up a meeting with bitcoinwell.com/OTC today. Schedule a meeting with their team, and it's a white glove service. They'll personally handhold you through A to Z, buying Bitcoin and taking that Bitcoin into self-custody. So what are you waiting for? Go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC today to get started. All right, everybody, we have a hell of a show lined up for you guys. We have tons to talk about today. You guys are going to want to stay tuned. We're going to be right back in just a bit. I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. All right, everybody. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $89,690. Wow.
I'm just laughing at the price, bro.
$89,700. Block height 926,552. Market cap 1.79 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 5.99%. Remember when the Bitcoin versus gold market cap was like at 10%, and we were like, we were dancing. We were so excited. We were super hyped. Yeah, those were the days. Anyways, I do want to talk about this, ladies and gentlemen. Check out this clip.
The crypto speech was a big hit. And I know a lot of smart people love crypto. I know some smart people actually have reservations about it.
Sure.
For our audience, can you just kind of make the case for crypto and people who have, concerns and quite frankly don't even understand it? There are a lot of folks out there. I know a lot of people own it, but
yeah, of course. So look, I'm an owner of Bitcoin here, but I'm also the vice president of the United States. So I want to be careful, but I think the core value proposition of cryptocurrency is that it's a way of transacting and a way of storing value in a modern digital age. Look, 100 years ago, if you wanted to go and buy something, you put a dollar bill on the table, you put a gold coin on the table. The value proposition of Bitcoin is that it can serve the same function, but in a digital age, a way that's secure, that's safer from fraud, that allows people to buy and sell and store value, but in a way that's consistent with the modern technological age that we live in. Now, having said that, I fully accept there are risks to all of these things. There are always risks to new technologies. Our approach in the
all right, he's come further. Not exactly. He definitely needs to listen.
I mean, he said he did, I think, kind of clarify this. He's like, I'm the vice president, so I think he has to say that. But
but he did say he owns Bitcoin, right? That's number one. Number two, I think he needs to listen to more Bitcoin podcasts. Way more Bitcoin podcasts. He needs to at least binge watch the Sailor series at least once. And he needs to read the Bitcoin Standard. But definitely a step in the right direction. Like it's crazy, we went from being hunted to the vice president of the United States admitting that he is an owner of Bitcoin, which is fantastic, which is great. Right. And again, this is the front runner for 2028. We got two pro Bitcoin presidents in the White House back to back. I think that's bullish from a regulatory perspective, but maybe not, because we did pump way harder during Operation Choke Point 2.0. So I don't know.
All right. Well, first of all, I do love the rhetoric. I will say that first and foremost. I am a fan of the rhetoric here. Obviously the vice president understands what Bitcoin is. I mean, maybe like Nico said, he needs to learn more. I personally don't think that that's the case. And I think it's really more like he's the vice president and he's doing, his PR thing where like he has to kind of acknowledge the risk. He can't just go full bulltard. And that's like this is me being I don't even know the word right now. Like this is me being nice, I guess is the best way to say it. My second part of this is I don't really like Vance too much.
Tell the people what they really want to hear.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Vance fan, and it really all boils down to his connections with Peter Thiel. That's he's a Peter Thiel creation to me. I don't really trust the guy personally, but I do like that he is pro Bitcoin. I do like that he's a Bitcoiner. Just like there's something about Vance that really, I don't know, doesn't sit well with me. And I think it's because of the PayPal mafia kind of connection. But hey, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing in regards to him pushing Bitcoin. That's just like that's my vibes with Vance.
Anything that would jeopardize, him as a candidate?
Kind of. Peter Thiel is like CIA contractor for, surveillance and information. Like we want a more private, less KYC future.
Yeah, but hold on.
And Palantir's job is literally tracking information.
Okay, but hold on. But what if my perspective on this is I think what Trump did was he massively shifted the Overton window.
I'd agree 100% on that.
Big time, right? I think before Trump, the Overton window was like it didn't shift at all, bro.
He blew up the Overton window.
He blew it up metaphorically, right? So again, like you have like the Overton window is shifting, is what I'm trying to say, right? So if you have someone like Trump, then someone like Vance, that opens the door for our age, because at the end of the day, bro, like Bitcoiners, like the Bitcoiners that I know are in their 50s, 40s, and 30s, right? I think the next generation of people that are going to be in positions of wealth and power are going to be Bitcoiners. I was running the math the other day. The definition of an ultra high net worth individual is someone who owns $30 million or more of liquid assets, right? If you are, if Bitcoin goes to $500,000 per coin, 30% of the population, 30% of the ultra high net worth population is going to be Bitcoiners, right? 30 effing percent. And Bitcoiners feel a certain way about the role of government in society, right? So I think that they're going to have a tremendous amount of influence on the U.S. politics moving forward. We already saw this last election. You can make a very strong argument that if it wasn't for the Bitcoiner donor base and donor class, Trump would not have won the 2024 election. You can make a very strong argument about that. The fact that we had a presidential candidate, he felt like he needed to speak at the Bitcoin conference to get those votes tells you everything you need to know about the power and influence of our movement. And I think this is just getting started. To think that it's just going to end there, I think is incredibly naive, right? So, yeah, I think this is extremely bullish. What do I know?
Well, I would agree with that last part. I think like what Trump did, not just around Bitcoin, but in general, fundamentally changed politics. But in particular, when it comes to Bitcoin, it does seem like moving forward every election, that's going to be one of those defining conversations. Like your stance on Bitcoin, I think moving forward, obviously I am kind of conflating this a little bit, but I think your stance on Bitcoin moving forward is totally going to be one of those make it or break it kind of topics for every politician from here on out because of what Trump did. So I'm in total agreement with that.
All right, everybody. Well, we have a fantastic show lined up for you guys. We still have a ton of things to cover. We're going to be right back in just a little bit.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones? They don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Bitkey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. Bitkey fixes that. Bitkey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named Bitkey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
All right, everybody, we have a very special guest joining us today. Let's bring him up on stage, and air horns, please. We got Jonathan in the house joining us from Bitkey. Jonathan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Nice to meet you.
Well, dude,
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Everybody who's watching right now, ladies and gentlemen, you guys know we've been talking about Bitkey for a couple of months now. We've partnered up with them. We've brought on Jonathan to talk all things Bitkey on today's show, and we're really excited to do that. So, Jonathan, I'm going to tell you my own personal perspective. I would love to get your thoughts on this as well. I've been in the industry for almost a decade now. I've played or used every single hardware wallet known to man at this point.
I know the feeling.
What I absolutely love about what you guys have done with the Bitkey is that it is incredibly intuitive and easy to use. It has multi-sig built in. It has inheritance built in. And the reason that, for me, that's important is the experience that I've lived through, my lived experience with trying to get people to take self-custody of their Bitcoin, is that it is like, it doesn't matter if you set them up. It doesn't matter if you do all the steps.
Yes.
You will get a call
2
months later, 3 months later, 4 months later, and they're going to say, I lost my words. How do I use this thing? And you end up becoming the Uncle Jim of your family, right? It doesn't matter how much, videos you sent them and how many tutorials you sent them. You guys designed this product for the everyday person that perhaps isn't watching Bitcoin podcast 24/7, right?
Yes.
So that's my personal interpretation of it, and that's been my experience using it. I would love to hear your thoughts.
No, you know what's funny? You mentioned that, and we used to joke when we were first launching that like this would be what it was like. Should we do a marketing campaign of like the only Bitcoin wallet where you don't have to be tech support for your family? Because like a lot of us who were playing with it on the team went through very similar realizations of like, hey, you can use this thing. It's easy to use, easy to set up, hard to shoot yourself in the foot, and it like really sets your friends and family up for success. And so like that very much resonates with us and was like one of our early thinkings around like, hey, there's really something here. Like there's really something to usability. And like, I think what really led us there was this idea of like, hardware wallets are really secure if you do everything perfectly right forever. But that's a really tall ask of customers of like, hey, just don't screw anything up for, now until forever, and you'll be fine. And we wanted to build something that was way more resilient to human error, way harder to screw up, something that doesn't rely on like you being a perfect operator to use. And so that was really one of our core ethos in building Bitkey.
Yeah, no, and I see it, right? I see it. Like this is like literally like I told my parents-in-law, I'm like you have to get this thing. Literally all you do is you put in your fingerprint, you tap it on your phone. They're looking at me like, wait, really?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's extremely intuitive. It's easy to use, but it still gets all the benefits of self-custody. And it also gives you the ability to make a mistake, right? Which I think, again, for people entering into Bitcoin that are not consuming Bitcoin podcast every single day, you scare them away actually when you talk about self-custody.
Totally.
They look at you like you're a crazy person. It's like, what do you mean? What this thing? Is the money actually in here? Like,
right.
They
don't seed words to someone for the very first time is always kind of they're like, wait, what?
Yeah, yeah. It's and that's what I love about the product that you guys designed. I'm gonna pass it on to my co-host Opti. Jonathan, I'm here with my right-hand man, my co-founder, Optimus Fields. Opti, I'm gonna hand it off to you, bro, because you were saying the same thing the other day. I know you're going back home to California for Christmas.
Yeah, I want to buy them all for my family.
Right?
I have their tech support, and I'm like, what's going to be a good Christmas gift? I'm just going to buy like 7 Bitkeys for everyone and be like, here you go. Anyways, Nico did kind of mention some of the stuff, but I know you guys just dropped a new article. Well, it's not that new. It's about a month old about a bit proposal that you guys basically launch and fundamentally, I guess, change, collaborative custody here. And I think this is a good conversation to start here because, our audience is hardcore Bitcoiners, like the most hardcore savage Bitcoiners. And, sometimes they don't understand a lot of the moves that Bitcoiners make or Bitcoin companies make. And they obviously have their opinions about this. But you guys, I think, are solving the trade-off between security, privacy, and ease of use. So can you jump into this and explain this to our audience? Maybe for the hardcore Bitcoiners, they're like, why would I get a Bitkey? And you guys are like, we basically made the best hardware wallet for you guys, but everyone, is nitpicking certain things here or there. So floor's all yours, Jonathan.
Totally. No, appreciate it. Yeah, this is, one of the things kind of transitioning from what we were talking about before of it being like so easy, you can just give it to your family members and they'll be fine. It's also a very serious wallet. Like we're not targeting sort of normies or this being a starting wallet that you upgrade out of. Like there's real serious privacy and security tech in here. And so that's something like I would love to talk about. And I want to jump into the bit proposal because that is so cool. And I love nerding out about it. So like really, really happy to go deep on that. But to start on like just sort of motivating the problem where when you take on self-custody for the first time, there's really a couple categories of options. You either do sort of do it yourself single sig, which has is not as secure as multi-sig, has some complications with like there being single points of failure and like you're securing a seed phrase, but now that seed phrase is really vulnerable because there's only one seed protecting your wallet. And so a lot of people, start at single sig and then eventually move up to multi-sig. And DIY multi-sig is frankly pretty hard. And it's hard because like when you have multiple keys you have to protect, you don't want to co-locate them, you have multiple signing devices. And then if you ever lose a key, like fixing a multi-sig wallet is kind of hard because you now have like an old multi-sig wallet that only has 2 keys left and you want to migrate it to a new multi-sig wallet that has 3 keys left. So like during this migration, you have 5 keys you're keeping track of, or maybe you're reusing the first 2 keys and just adding a 3rd key. So you have 4 or 3 keys, but 2 descriptors. And like, it's just a hard thing to manage. And then you layer like inheritance on top of that. And it's like, whatever you set up, however you figure out how to do this, you now need your beneficiaries to be able to operate it when you're gone. And like, to me, that was like really the hardest part of this whole solution. At one point I like wrote a document for my family, which is like, if I'm gone, here's how to use the multi-sig setup. And it was like 30 pages. And it was 30 pages because, I had screenshots of like, okay, well, download Sparrow and like, here's a screenshot of here's what it looked like in 2025. It probably looks a little bit different, but you're looking for something that kind of sounds like this, And so anyway, so that kind of takes you into the collaborative custody world where you get someone to help, someone to manage the multi-sig setup, manage the recoveries, manage the descriptors. But when you do that, you give up some really important things. And like, that's the trade-off that I think keeps some of the most hardcore Bitcoiners kind of out of collaborative custody, because like, while you want kind of all the good things that collaborative custody gives you, there's some trade-offs there that are really hard to stomach. And one of them is privacy. And so this kind of sets us up to like motivate what we wanted to do in this BIP. And so we're a collaborative custodian setup where one of the keys is held in our servers. And one of the challenges of that is when you have one key in a multi-sig wallet, you have full visibility into the wallet. So you can see all the historical transactions, you can calculate the balances, you can see all the future transactions. And this was visibility that like made us really uncomfortable. Like we don't want this. And the only reason we have it is it was it's basically just a property of sharing keys in a multi-sig wallet. And so we've got some really smart people, great cryptographers, great applied cryptographers, great like people who really care about privacy and this stuff. And they looked at this, and basically the core question was, does it have to be this way? Is there like some fundamental property of the cryptography that we're using that mandates every key in a multisig have the same equal visibility as every other key? And when they dug into it, they came to the answer of no, there isn't. Like you can break that trade-off. And the way you do that is you can give a participant a key so that they can sign, but you can withhold enough information from them that they don't actually know the full descriptor. And because they don't know the descriptor, they can't actually examine the wallet, and they can't look at the blockchain. They can't identify your transactions, and it keeps your balance private. And so this was the idea behind this bit proposal, because when we realized that, hey, the cryptography just makes this possible, everybody should do this. Like every collaborative, whether it's your traditional collaborative custody setup where like you're using a third-party custodian, or we're imagining in the future, family accounts or maybe corporate treasuries, or there's all sorts of scenarios where you might want to share a key for recovery or co-signing reasons, but you don't necessarily want to share full visibility into your wallet. And so being able to separate the idea of co-signing capabilities from visibility, and the math all maths, which is great. And so we spent some time figuring out how to make it work. We wrote some implementations in a few different languages and published a BIP so that everybody could use it. And one of the really exciting things is the very first thing we did is we implemented it into our wallet. And so now when you onboard into Bitkey, if you're, and this is just standard, anyone who onboards into Bitkey today, going forward forever, has a private wallet. This isn't some feature you turn on. For existing users, you do need to upgrade to it because, and the reason you need to upgrade it is we've already seen your descriptor. So there's no point in us like deleting it, because that's a trust us assumption. What we want to say is get on a wallet where we've never seen it, provably never seen it. And so that's why the existing users need to upgrade, get a new wallet, get a new descriptor, and then you'll be private. And so we're super excited about that. It was a huge deal for us, a huge initiative, a ton of work. And we've been really happy with the reception of it, because we were very excited.
That is super, super cool. And I'm glad that you broke that down, because again, like, ladies and gentlemen, again, we have people from all walks of life watching Simply Bitcoin, but basically, yeah, you can do the single sig, which I think is, first step, right? Then you go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and you're like, wait, single sig, how do I don't understand. That's a lot of trust. And then you end up with single sig with a passphrase, right? Yep. And then if you spend enough time down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and, you have enough of your net worth in Bitcoin, you're like, wait, single sig with a passphrase, then you end up at multi-sig. And then eventually, where I think it's the natural step, is the collaborative custody, right? Which there's multiple services that offer this, but the thing is, the collaborative custody, it from a lot of these people are my friends, right? But again, it's still difficult. It's still difficult. That's the hard part. The hard part is you guys figured out how to make this intuitive, and you guys figured out how to put a tremendous amount of complexity behind the product that you guys made. And now you're announcing on the show that you have privacy in mind. So it's not just a collaborative custody wallet and hardware wallet and software wallet a software interface to go along with it. But you guys actually built a mechanism that keeps the privacy intact for users that are using this collaborative custody Bitcoin hardware wallet, which I find absolutely fascinating that you are working in that direction, because to be honest with you, that's like a very Bitcoin ethos type of thing. You're not really incentivized to do that, right? No. At all, right? No. If you have more insights into how much Bitcoin is being held with your product, right?
It's to be honest, it's so awesome working at Block, especially with Jack at the helm and his Bitcoin ethos, because like you show up in any other company and you say like, hey, I want to get rid of all of our product tracking metrics. Like, I can imagine, I've been doing product management for 20 years now. Like I can imagine that conversation at like any other company being like, wait, what? Like, you're going to remove your own ability to see how much usage your product's getting. And at Block, like, it wasn't even a question. It was like, yeah, like privacy is about the core ethos. Like this is so important to not only just like from an ethos standpoint, but from a safety standpoint. And like, we don't want the toxic data. Like we don't want to have it be hackable or leakable, or like we just don't want to touch it. And it's so cool having like such a strong Bitcoin ethos, because like it's all Bitcoiners that work on this product. And you know, and so we get super excited about privacy. We take it really seriously. There's you know, another feature we launched just this week, a couple days ago. That was another privacy enhancement, which is after doing the private balances, we no longer see your wallet once you're a customer, but we wanted Bitkey customers to be able to become customers privately. And so earlier this year, we started accepting Bitcoin payments, and so you don't have to share any payment information. And then this week we started doing, we released private pickup points, which is you can give, instead of your home address, you can give a local business. There's like, it's like Walgreens and FedEx, and there's a couple of more. There's like 9,000 locations in the US, and pick it up at this local business. And so you don't need to give your payment information. You don't need to give your address. We can't see your balance once you get on. Like, we are so privacy focused here, and it takes a lot of like tech and work to get there. And it's something that we're really committed to and spend a lot of our roadmap on.
And I applaud the fact that you guys are really taking a Bitcoin ethos approach. That's fantastic to hear as a Bitcoiner. We already have a question in the chat. I'm not going to say any of the curse words, but it says, but if you lose phone and Bitkey at the same time, are you effed?
Yes. This is my favorite question. Okay, no. And it's going to take a little bit of setup to explain why. But I feel like this is the audience to explain it to, because it's such a cool solution. So obviously, if you lose your phone or your hardware, then there's still 2 keys left, and you can recover your wallet. That's all straightforward multi-sig. So we get this question often: what happens if I lose both? And there is such a cool solution here. So we call it recovery contacts. And the idea behind it is it kind of mimics the idea of storing a seed phrase at your friend's house or your parents' house, where you like take a secret. It's only one part of 3, and you go and hide it somewhere that someone else helps you protect. But we thought, hey, that's a little bit like, you know, rudimentary of like hiding physical objects in physical places in, you know, people's houses. Could we do it digitally? Could we do it with cryptography? Could we lean on cryptographic solutions and social networks and empower you to sort of create these artifacts that you need to recover your wallet, and store them with people you trust? And so that's the idea behind it. And the way it works is you can ask anyone in your life to download the Bitkey app. They don't need the hardware, they just need to download the app. And once they have the app, you can set them up as a recovery contact. And the way that works is you just go into your app, you say add a recovery contact, and it gives you a code. You send that code to them out of band, because again, we don't want to see it. We don't want to know who your recovery contacts are. We don't have any KYC on you. We don't have any KYC on them. To us, they're all just anonymous account IDs. So you send them this code, and what that code does is it basically signals to them that they're going to become a recovery contact. And so what they do is they create a new encryption and decryption key pair. And these are not signing keys. These have nothing to do with kind of your wallet. They're just basic encryption and decryption. And they send you the encryption key. And this is happening all automatically in the background. And what you do is you take their encryption key and you encrypt your app key with it. And then you put it in your cloud account. Now, putting keys in the cloud always makes people nervous, and makes us nervous too. But the reason that it's okay in this case is because it's encrypted by your trusted contact. And so what that means is, let's say someone hacks your cloud. Let's say your cloud provider becomes evil and steals it. That's not a useful piece of data until they also have the decryption key. Now, the person holding onto the decryption key, we don't know who they are. Only you know who they are. And so what happens is, if you need to recover your wallet, let's say now you lose your phone, you lose your hardware, so you have nothing. You get a new phone, re-download the app, get a new hardware, and now it's time to recover your wallet. So now you have to get that key back. So what happens is your app installs and looks in your cloud and says, hey, I found this payload, but it's encrypted. If you can decrypt it, there's probably a key in here. Go to your trusted contact, your recovery contact, and get them to give you the decryption key. And so the role that this recovery contact plays is they just have to basically identify you and say, oh yeah, you're really you. I'm going to give you this decryption key. And so what we suggest for sort of the very security minded folks is tell your recovery contact up front, I never want you to give this decryption key to anyone unless you and I meet in person. I don't want to worry about AI fakes. I don't want to worry about phone calls. Like, let's meet in person, verify that it's me really asking, then deliver the key. Now you can decrypt this payload. Once it's decrypted, you've got one key back. And now that you've got one key back, you can go through the standard recovery process, multi-sig recovery process to recover your wallet. And so this recovery contact system is super powerful, and they never see anything about your wallet. They never see a key, they never see a balance, they never see a descriptor. They're just playing this role of an encryption, decryption, basically a permissioned encryption, decryption point, but it's permissioned on your personal relationship. And so we thought that was a really powerful tool to make these wallets more recoverable.
So, Jonathan, one of the things that you mentioned earlier that I want to go back to, which is you said, and you kind of buried the lead when you said this, and I'm very curious to hear what your thoughts are on this. You said, Nico, this isn't just a wallet for people getting into Bitcoin. This is a wallet for Bitcoiners of all levels. There's a tremendous amount of, I'm a media person, so forgive me if I butcher the terminology. There's a tremendous amount of tech behind this. So could you walk us through that tech, right? Like, is there a secure element in here? Like, how are Bitcoiners ensured that, because at the end of the day, this is seedless. This is the way that the product was designed. What was the philosophy behind it? What is the tech here, that people are using to entrust basically store their Bitcoin on? Could you walk us through all of that?
Yeah, totally. Would love to. So maybe I'll start a little bit on the seedless philosophy and then move into sort of the tech that sort of makes that even a possibility. And so when we first started looking into creating a Bitcoin wallet, our guiding light was really this idea of safety. And often I think people use the word security, and we wanted to broaden that definition because security is really sort of protection from like attacks. And we really wanted to broaden it to not only protection of attacks, which is security, but also usability. Like how easy is it or how hard is it to kind of screw yourself, to just make a mistake, to get your seed phrase phished, to accidentally open it up in front of a computer, to a camera, or connect it to the internet by accident. And so really looking at usability as a pillar of safety. And then finally looking at privacy as a pillar of safety. And when we kind of take it together, we say we really want to be sort of the safest wallet, and it's a matter of balancing those. And if you can increase the security, but you also at the same time increase the chance that people make a mistake, like, did you really help them keep their Bitcoin? And so
okay. So because again, you're that part is so, you don't understand. This has happened to me more. Okay. This has happened, not to me personally, but experiencing this with people, right? Yeah. This situation, what Jonathan just described, has happened to me more than someone saying, dude, someone stole my seed phrase, right? You know what the call that I've received the most throughout the years is? Nico, I think I lost my seed phrase. Yeah. Or Nico, I don't know where my seed phrase is. Or Nico, I have this hardware wallet. I'm fine, right? I lost the paper. And then I have to explain to them, like, or the plate or whatever. And I'm like, dude, I'd have to explain to them. I'm like, the seed words are your money, right? And then and for them, they're like, what do you mean? Like, they go crazy, they lose their minds. But this is that part. I think you don't do it enough justice when you described it, because again, that is you guys designed this product for human beings, right? Like, this is what I'm thinking of when I see the Bitkey, when I use the Bitkey. It's human friendly, right? Yeah. And the reality is that, look, I'm a nerd, Opti's a nerd. We've been in Bitcoin for a minute now at this point. So, you talk to us about seed words, and and that's and I do this with my eyes closed, right? Like I because I've done it all. I've made the mistakes. I've manually set up multi-sig wallets. Like I've literally experimented, and Jonathan, just based on our conversations, I'm 1,000% sure you have done this as well. This is not easy stuff to use. It's just not. It's just not easy to use. And what you guys have figured out with this is you get all the benefits of a multi-sig collaborative custody wallet that all you have to do is tap on your phone to spend. Let's say you lose the Bitkey, you could still recover it. You use your phone, you could still lose your phone, you could still recover it. It's almost as if you made it, with the thinking that, people weren't going to take self-custody of their Bitcoin if it wasn't easy enough. And I think that's something that a lot of Bitcoiners, for the better or for worse, I don't know what it is. You know what it reminds me of, Jonathan? It reminds me of like the whole idea in the 90s was that every single person was going to have a computer in their homes. Like that was the theory. The theory in the 90s was every single person was going to have a computer in their homes. And you would picture that as everyone was going to have a keyboard and a monitor and a mouse, right? That theory was wrong, but the theory that everyone was going to have a computer in their homes was absolutely right. Yeah. And that computer was this, right? They made it human friendly. And that's when you had this mass adoption of computers, right?
100%.
Rather than like this thing, which again, it's still like laptops are more used than they were back then. But what's used more, this or this? Because they're essentially the same thing. They're both computers. Totally. But one is more human friendly. So I love to bring up that analogy because it describes my experience with this device, which is you've made something incredibly complex, easy to use for the everyday person. And what you're making the case for, Jonathan, as well, is that you haven't sacrificed security or privacy in order to do so.
Totally. Yeah. Well, and I think to kind of like continue sort of this basically our thinking as we started developing this product, and I do want to answer your question that you started with, which is like, and the architecture, but like I really wanted to kind of spend the time sort of taking you through the journey we went through to get there. And so like it started from this first principles of like, what are the goals? And the goals are safety being kind of this broader definition of safety. And then we looked at, okay, well, how do you achieve that? And sort of in that framing, you look at seed phrases, and seed phrases are a tool. A lot of people think seed phrases and private keys are the same thing. I'm sure a lot of your audience realizes that they're not, but one of the most common conversations we have at conferences is explaining this to people, which is, Bitcoin existed long before seed phrases existed. And seed phrases were a great breakthrough. And there's some scenarios in which like seed phrases are the only tool for the job. Like, fleeing some country with 12 words in your head and basically having like Bitcoin in your brain is like pure magic. And that I think is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. But at its core, seed phrases are a tool to recreate a private key. They're a recovery tool. And they're also a portability tool to be able to sort of unilaterally move your Bitcoin without relying on anyone else. And so we looked at that. We said, okay, well, if those are the two goals, recoverability and unilateral exit, can you accomplish that with other tools that are safer? And that's really what sort of sent us down this road of how much Bitcoin has been lost due to seed phrase mismanagement, whether it's like a mistake that you make, whether it's being phished, being tricked into giving up your seed phrase, or even things like natural disasters or house fires, or there's a million things that could go wrong. And are they the most resilient form of recovery? And so when we got deep into it, what we realized was, no, we don't think so. We think seed phrases are the source of loss for many, many people. And I know this from like personal stories in my own life. And it sounds like you do too. And so what we wanted to do is we said, okay, well, why don't we base the recovery more heavily on multi-sig than on seed phrases, use sort of transactions as the primitive to escape the wallet, and what kind of system can we build? And so that kind of leads us into the architecture that we ended up with, which is we have the hardware unit, which has a secure element, has open source firmware. And one of the really cool things about Bitkey hardware that is kind of unique in the hardware space is the key cannot leave the device. And that's kind of a really profound thing. Like every other hardware wallet, the very first thing you do when you set it up is you export the seed phrase. And it's like, okay, you go protect it. And when a hardware wallet exports its seed phrase, it basically is saying, hey, I am giving up the most important secret in this whole setup. And so the hardware wallet at that point is not playing the role of like a vault. It's instead kind of playing the role of a pen. It's a signer. It generates keys securely and it signs transactions securely. But when it comes to protecting the secret, making sure that it's not lost in a fire or handling recovery, its solution is to hand you a seed phrase. And so Bitkey is unique in that its hardware does not export the seed. There is one copy of your key in the entire world, and it is in a secure physical device that it can't come out of. There aren't even the APIs to extract the keys. And so that makes the hardware this super secure key. Then the second key lives on your phone. And it's managed by the app and the security of the phone, the biometrics of the phone, the sort of secure like keychains and secure enclaves. And that's also an open source system. You can look at the code. You can it's reproducible on Android. And that's your second key. Now that's the key that we use to create backups. And the backup is, like I explained earlier in the show about recovery contacts, because that key is on your phone and we can encrypt it and put it in places. That's the key that is like very, very hard to lose because of all the various ways you can use to protect it. And then finally, you've got the key on Bitkey servers. And Block has been in the Bitcoin business for a long time. They run Cash App, one of the largest US exchanges. Block has a lot of experience storing keys safely and storing Bitcoin safely. And so these keys kind of that are stored in at Block are held just for your usage in our sort of enterprise grade security system. And those are the three keys that make up your wallet. And like I was explaining before, losing one key, either your phone or your hardware, is a very easy multi-sig solution. Losing both your phone and the hardware, we have a trusted recovery contact system that lets you recover from that case. And then on top of that, we have a inheritance system where you can designate another Bitkey wallet as a beneficiary of your Bitcoin if you're no longer around. And so like taking all of those things together, and we do it all privately. We do it with this cool multi-sig technology that we invented, published a BIP on, and we do this all never seeing your balance. Or without having your descriptor, so that we can't even examine the blockchain to determine what transactions belong to your wallet. And so that's kind of the basic architecture of Bitkey, and sort of the motivation of how we ended up there.
No, it's super cool. Again, I think that this is going to accelerate more people taking Bitcoin into self-custody. One of the concerns Opti and I have had this year was that this year, Jonathan, I'm sure that you are on Bitcoin Twitter or Bitcoin X. This is paper Bitcoin summer, right? So you had this massive rise of these ETFs, and I feel like, for the first time really since I've been in Bitcoin, like people have forgot the power of self-custody, right? Like they forgot like what the goal of Bitcoin was, which is individuals reclaiming back their financial sovereignty. And the way that you do that is by having your keys in self-custody, right? And I think that this product, again, to use the computer analogy earlier, is human friendly. And I think that is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly important, because either people get intimidated by self-custody, and once they get intimidated by self-custody, what do they default to? They default to, just
custodial solutions.
Custodial solutions, right? And I also think that, I'm also thanking you as well, because I know for a fact that now my family isn't going to give me so many calls when it comes to spending or using their Bitcoin. So I'm going to pass it on to Opti, because Opti, you've been in this game basically as long as I have, bro. And you've played the Uncle Jim roll a couple of times as well. What was your first reaction, using this thing?
Well, first off, the packaging, opening it up, I was like, man, this is sexy. And Nico keeps saying human friendly. And I don't want to go so far as say, like, is the Bitkey the iPhone moment for hardware wallets? But it almost feels like that because it's just like, it's such a sexy little device. It's so easy to use. And as much as Bitcoiners are very big on security, that's like security, privacy is one of the biggest things. Like we've seen all year, one of the things we've been talking about is like, is Wall Street going to really corner the market? Because maybe self-custody is that choke point. It might feel like Bitkey is a breakthrough on that idea that, okay, make it simple again, but you don't sacrifice anything. Super easy to use. Everyone can use it, and they're not going to get like scared away. You don't have to really remember your process of setting up your hardware wallets. It's just like tap and go. You're good to go. So I'm really just excited to see if this helps more people take self-custody of Bitcoin, because that's what we're always about. Look, we cover the news. ETFs has been the biggest news story this year. The Wall Street banks are coming into Bitcoin. They're literally marketing their products for custody. Like, hey, trust us, bro. We know how to do this. And we just keep saying, it's like, what is stopping people from custodying their own Bitcoin? And I think it's ease of use. And you guys might have just solved that one. So, kudos to the product.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I mean, I'm glad that it's really heartwarming that's your reaction, because one of the things that was like really important to us in the very early days of the product was just this observation that, like, is custodial Bitcoin growing faster than self-custody Bitcoin? Because that's bad news for everyone. And the superpowers of Bitcoin come from its self-custody nature. It's the trust no one aspect of it. And if people, when they get into the space, start on a custodial solution and never leave because of ease of use, like, that's really bad for Bitcoin long term. And so we really wanted to build something that helped kind of stem that flow of people into custodial solutions and really invigorate kind of the growth of self-custody. And so, like, that I think is the really, like, zooming out, the top line metric of like the whole sort of hardware wallet self-custody industry is like, can we get self-custody to grow faster than custodial solutions? And that's like a very tall order, but like, it's what we got to shoot for the long-term success of Bitcoin.
Yeah,
100%. You guys have really, really innovated here, Jonathan, with this thing. And it makes self-custody seamless, I think would be the correct word of the correct way of describing it. And I know that you guys have recently announced direct from Cash App. I think Strike is another one. Our lead sponsor, Bitcoin Well, it's self-custody by default. So again, it's buy Bitcoin, go straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet, but it's integrated into a lot of these apps as well. So it makes taking self-custody so seamless. Guys, I don't think you understand. Like, back in the day, there were no hardware wallets, right? Like, there was paper wallets, right? Like, that was the thing, right? So the fact that it's as simple as like literally 1, 2, 3, you can buy from the app. Is that correct, Jonathan?
Oh, yeah. So that, I mean, it's a really cool feature at large. I mean, what you can do is we just announced this sort of zero fee, zero spread purchase on Cash App promotion, where you can I actually saw an X post about this morning. Someone was saying, hey, I got my paycheck direct deposited into Cash App, directly turned into Bitcoin, and then transferred into my Bitkey, all seamlessly, no fees, no spreads. And so, like, the power of this like new financial system on Bitcoin is like coming together. And again, this is another cool thing about working at Block, is there's so many different dimensions between Cash App and all the Bitcoin products they offer. The Square terminals now accepting Bitcoin and allowing merchants to convert sales into Bitcoin. Cash App users being able to spend in Bitcoin directly from their Cash App, whether it's they have a USD balance or a Bitcoin balance. We're working on miners. We have an open source Spiral team that does a lot of Lightning work and all sorts of cool open source projects. And like, there's just so much Bitcoin stuff going on at Block and the synergies between these products. And so, yes, to get to your question, one of the features in Bitkey is this partnership integration tab where you can request a quote from multiple partners. And whichever partner you choose on price. It lets you compare the prices fairly. It links you directly into the partner experience and connects the wallet address or sends the wallet address for you. So you're not copy and pasting addresses or trying to make sure that like all of the digits match and you weren't sort of attacked with some man in the middle in the process. Like, we wanted it to be as seamless as possible and as safe as possible to get your Bitcoin off of an exchange and into the wallet. And so these integrations make that just a one-click experience. You never have to deal with copy and pasting addresses between locations to try to get your Bitcoin to move.
Again, it's the iPhone moment of Bitcoin hardware wallets. I'm sticking to it.
I don't want to be hyperbolic here, but
I'm
it
telling
feels
you,
like
bro,
it.
if it like the copy paste and then you look, I've been doing this for a while. I still get paranoid. Like I still,
yeah, of course.
I still check the address and I'm like looking through and and all that stuff. So again, the fact that you guys have taken away that extra step, I think is going to help so much more people take self-custody of their Bitcoin. And I think that's how we win. Like that's really how Bitcoin wins, is individuals taking self-custody of their Bitcoin. So Jonathan, it's been an honor having you on today, guys. Jonathan is the product lead for Bitkey. This is incredible. This incredible device. And like I said, guys, I've been here for a while and this just makes it so seamless. The headaches just go away. The security is there. The privacy there. That BIP protocol that you guys introduced, so fascinating. Collaborative custody, but without showing any of the transactions, any of the balances. That's super, super, super cool. Jonathan, would love to have you back on the show to do a more deep dive on that BIP, man, because it's super, super cool what you guys are building over there.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate all the kind words, and glad that you and your family like it. It really is motivating to work on a product that people love, and so it's so thank you.
You guys hit it absolutely out of the park. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us on Simply Bitcoin today, bro. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, we still got the news segment for you guys. We still got a lot to talk about. You guys are going to want to stay tuned. It is the Friday special. We're going to be right back in just a little bit.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank. And you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys. Tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth. And join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io. Join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
All right, everybody. Breaking news again on the regulatory front. Our friends over at TFTC posted this coming out of the CFTC. Was that on purpose? CFTC. That's kind of funny.
Wait.
My dad jokes are just getting worse. Anyways, so check this out. Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. The CFTC just ended the offshore crypto era. Spot Bitcoin on federally regulated exchanges, perpetuals, options, full federal oversight. Bit nominal live December 9th. The U.S. is poised to lead this market. Here's the official press release, or I don't know, it's not called a press release, the official release. December 4th, 2025, the Commodities Future Trading Commission acting chairman, Carolyn D. Pham, today announced that listed spot cryptocurrency products will begin trading for the first time in U.S. federally regulated markets on CFTC registered future exchanges. The announcement marks a significant step forward in the Trump administration's plan to usher in a golden age of innovation and make America the crypto capital of the world. Quote, the CFTC has a rich history of welcoming responsible innovation on futures exchanges by balancing regulatory flexibility with core principles that safeguard both institutional and retail investors. Thanks to President Trump's leadership, this administration has developed a comprehensive all-of-government plan for America to reclaim its place as the world leader in digital asset markets, and the CFTC has a central role to play. Acting Chairman Pham said, recent events on offshore exchanges have shown us how essential it is for Americans to have more choice and access to safe, regulated U.S. markets. Now, for the first time ever, spot crypto can trade on CFTC registered exchanges that have been the gold standard for nearly 100 years, with the customer protections and market integrity that Americans deserve. So again, it's the legitimization of Bitcoin in just the regulatory environment. You had the Genius Act that happened earlier on this year. It was passed, and again, you had the Clarity Act, which is on the verge of being passed as well. Opti, I want to get your takes on this, man. Again, it's the further legitimization of Bitcoin. We went from Operation Choke Point 2.0 last year, right? All the regulatory hurdles that we were experiencing to basically being embraced. That's pretty crazy. What's your take, Opti?
Yeah, well, I believe it was earlier this week. I think it was earlier this week. Sorry, guys. I keep forgetting the days of all these news stories because it seems like there's so much news happening every day. But I believe it was, again, the beginning of the week, we saw the SEC chair, Paul Atkins, essentially say that, look, they're waiting for the Clarity Act. He thinks it's going to happen very soon. But at the tail end of the clip that we played for you guys, he did mention that the SEC and the CFTC are kind of working together to make sure that, they're more aligned and it's more favorable. And obviously, thanks to Trump, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it is very interesting that we are seeing the kind of some follow through finally on the regulatory front. I know from like a more hardcore Bitcoin perspective, you're like, look, free for all, like get out of the way. I'm totally with that. But from I don't want to say normie investor, but like from a more Main Street type, legitimate professional investor, like these are the things that will kind of incentivize them to go full force into Bitcoin, because that is one of the kind of running memes, whether we like it or not. Bitcoin is still sort of, well, maybe not anymore, but has been for a long time, like the Wild West of finance. It has got a lot of bad rep. There has been a lot of shady stuff happening. Like if we're being honest, there's been a lot of scammers and fraud in the industry. And so as much as I'm not one to necessarily cheer on the regulations. You guys know me. Sometimes I'm a little cautious because I fear over-regulation. This is a fundamental shift from what we've seen in the past. And I don't know if you saw this morning, guys, but Gary Gensler was on Bloomberg again, basically saying like, yeah, there's Bitcoin and then there's everything else, but even the space is just built on speculation and you should be very cautious. Like, I think these movements will kind of make people feel a little more comfortable putting a significant amount of wealth into Bitcoin. But on my more, I would say maybe like tinfoil hat, conversation here, which you guys love from me, it does seem like this move, it's very interesting when you consider the CZ pardon as well, because we all know Binance is one of the biggest offshore exchanges there. Well, not just the biggest offshore exchanges, but one of the biggest exchanges in general. So it does make it seem like they are trying to get a lot of that capital to come back onshore, at least in the US. Again, the quote, Bitcoin superpower of the world. So I think this might be an angle to kind of, position themselves in those markets, which is going to be very interesting. I doubt they're going to go like full degen, BitMEX, Binance, like 100x leverage or anything on these things. So there's still probably some appetite from Bitcoiners to go to these offshore exchanges. And but it is, I think, finally, like, for better or worse, there's finally some follow through on, different regulatory fronts here. Look, I don't know. I mean, is this going to make people more comfortable coming into Bitcoin? Will there be some kind of over-regulation that, like, side effects, trade-offs that we're unaware of? Potentially. But it does look like a more unified regulatory front from the SEC and the CFTC. It might be beneficial for the whole industry at large. Again, everyone's been saying for years, like, what's the meme? They say, we just need some clear rules to the road, when we've been for so long basically in this space, and anyone building a business has been like ruled by enforcement. Like, hey, you kind of know what's going on, but you only really know when you get hit with a fine. And Gary Gensler wants to make a point out of you. Now it seems like there are some clear rules to the road, so maybe beneficial. It seems beneficial. But who knows?
Look, I was promised that we were going to have fun with our Bitcoins and that Bitcoin was going to the moon. Okay. So I'm very happy about the regulatory developments.
Is this us having fun with our Bitcoins?
I'm really happy with the regulatory developments. I'm super happy with that. It's great. It's a step in the right direction. It's better than our industry, being attacked from the regulatory front. But at the same time, I want to see number go up, bro.
Yeah, listen, that's called motherfucking boy.
I want to see number go up. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I want to see number go up and the elimination of cap gains. Treat it as money.
Bars.
And then we're winning.
Bars. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. If you guys want to support Simply Bitcoin, you guys got to go check out our latest merch drop. Get yours while supplies last. Again, these are the types of hoodies that are so comfortable you never want to wash them. We pay attention to detail. These are not drop shipped. We buy the inventory all beforehand. So once it's sold out, and you will not be able to get yourself a piece of this drop. They're all titled Simply Bitcoin. The little etiqueta, how do you say that in English? The little
tag.
No, but it's not a tag. I don't want to say tag because it's not tag.
It's a tag. It's just not like
it's not like
it's a printed tag. It's on the shirt.
It's not the uncomfortable tag, right? That you want to cut off with the cigarette, with the scissor.
With the cigarette.
with the
Yeah, let's just wrap up the show. Nico's saying crazy things today.
Listen, it's not the uncomfortable tag that you want to cut off with the scissor. I was going to say it again. It's printed onto the shirt. It says Bitcoin or slavery. It says Simply Bitcoin. Get yours in your favorite size. We also have the Simply Bitcoin hat. Again, all this stuff is super effing comfortable. Get yours while supplies last. Guys, we love you. We appreciate y'all. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing. Enjoy your weekend. Go outside. touch some grass, get some sun, get some sunlight on your face. This is great. Enjoy the weekend, enjoy the time with your family.
This is not great. These blue lights are not, this is not sun. This is not great.
This is not good. This is not good. But we love you guys, and we'll see you on Monday for a brand new episode. Take care, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.